Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to go over a meeting that BC Hydro hosted for the electric vehicle community in British Columbia, and I attended that web meeting, and there was a number of points that were made, and for those of you that missed the meeting, thought it would be good to just recap the things that were discussed because it's going to affect all of us in British Columbia and anyone who actually drives through British Columbia with an electric vehicle. So to start off with, I'm going to reference this page here. You can see the URL up top. I'll put it in the description, but if you start on that page, you click on this link here under Workshops, EV Public Charging Engagement Session. The presentation that I'm about to go through is right here. It's a PDF file, and then underneath there's this feedback form. Really encourage all of you to jump onto that feedback form because you basically only have until I think the 11th or something like that, so not too many days, like the end of this week. So there's a feedback form as well. Anyway, let's jump into this presentation, and I'm going to basically go through this presentation workshop. Alright, so here it is. So this is the BC Hydro EV public charging. They've got all the information here from the meeting today. All this stuff about the meeting itself. I'll scroll down. So these are the key people that were presenting. We have Keith Anderson. He's the Vice President of Customer Service. He started off the presentation and went through a number of slides, and then we went on to Mike Wenslaff, and he was a product manager. He talked a lot about the next number of slides after that, sort of some of the things that are coming, and then it came to sort of charging rates and regulatory items. Anthea Jubb was going through all of that, and then Fred James kind of closed out the meeting after that. So what really did they cover? I'll try to give you guys the summary and keep this not too long of a video. For the things that you missed that you can't just read in this presentation. And so let's go through this. So they go through the basic stuff of what BC Hydro is. It's the province regulated hydro company. These are all the items here. So there's a couple things here. In 2013, they had their first electric vehicle charging station, first North American network of fast chargers from Vancouver Island to the interior, which is pretty cool. So it's been about 7 years. Regional travel was the focus. Funding majority came from Federal Natural Resources Canada and the province of BC. And just on that point, I do want to go to a link here. I think it's this one right here. So you can see this is National Energy of Canada, or something like that. And the electric vehicle page here. If I scroll down, you can see these are, new charging stations in the pipeline throughout the province, and they spend a lot of money. So these ones are up here in the north where I live, near Prince George. Really important charger, and look at them. One of the things that came loud and clear at this meeting is all of the new charging stations, the DC fast chargers that BC Hydro will install, they'll have 2 of them, which is a fantastic decision. So previously there was only 1 at most of these places, but now they're going to do 2, so that's really great. So the chances of you being out of luck when you arrive somewhere, especially if it's in like a small town like McBride, probably not going to have or have to wait too long if there's 2 chargers there, which is pretty cool. But you can see here there's a lot of new ones. A lot of these are going west of Prince George where I live, but cool enough, a lot of these are now starting to go north of Prince George, so they're gonna start hooking up to the Alaska Highway soon. Anyway, that's just a side note. So let's get back to the presentation here. Funding, a lot of it comes from Natural Resources Canada and the province of BC. So building out driver confidence for the last 7 years. Now, one thing I do want to say is, I want to talk about a number of the problems with EV charging. So they talked about the current state, and we'll get into this in a sec. And they have done a pretty good job, but honestly, most of the work up until this year of 2020 was really, and I can understand why, but mostly down here in the Lower Mainland, majority of it. and going out towards Kelowna and whatnot out here. And which they mentioned this sort of regional kind of driving, and going north was kind of impossible almost. I mean, it was a real struggle to get home. I myself purchased my Tesla Model 3 in January of this year, and it just so happened that they just opened enough of these chargers that my drive home, I made a video about this, I'll link down below, but was a very easy drive home. But just because they just completed a number of critical chargers just to get up to Prince George. But you will notice in this map, anything north, these are all under construction. There's like, and I've made videos on this, if you need to go north, if you need to go west, good luck. Now you can go east. There's, some, I would say, moderately okay charging right up to the border. And then after that, there's really not much in Banff. There's just some Tesla chargers and J1772s. But anyway, let's get back on topic here. So just to mention a few things. So what is the state of charging? So I want to get into that. One of the things that I personally brought up in the meeting is this issue. And that is, I asked the question to BC Hydro, can't you guys get some kind of a law put in place with your charging stations so that this doesn't happen? And it's typically called icing a charging station. And what that means is a gasoline vehicle just decides to park in a spot where it's supposed to be designated for electric vehicle charging. And you can see here from the CBC article, earlier this year, Ontario actually created a law saying you can't park your gasoline vehicle in an electric vehicle parking spot, and you'll get a fine for that. I was hoping that BC Hydro would put something in place, or at least, talk to the government in all of this work that they're going to do the same thing, because there's been a number of problems in BC, and somebody kept asking me, where are the stats, where are the numbers for that? Well, if you Google BC charging stations iced, you're going to find all kinds of articles like this guy here. In Greater Victoria, drivers are icing electric car charging spots, especially in areas where parking is tough to get. People they don't care if it's an electric vehicle charging station, they're just going to park there. And even where it's not, sometimes we get people in their big diesel trucks. They think that they're a big hero and they're just going to park in front of that charging station. And if we had laws that might mitigate it a bit more, so if I could record that on my dash cam and show their license plate and show that they're parked there, they could get a ticket. But there's no laws protecting that. So that is a problem. BC Hydro talks about good etiquette, but of course there's a lot of people that don't care about good etiquette. Another area to find out about all these charging problems, when you go to ChargePoint, you're going to see comments from people, I'll just pick some random station here, and I doubt this one in Hickson is going to have comments arguing about, but you can see here, people can leave comments in here, and I've seen a lot of them, definitely down in the Lower Mainland. My EV charging station was iced, and you're going to see tons of these comments throughout PlugShare. And so I really was kind of wishing that BC Hydro was going to do something about that, because we can talk about everything all day long, but if I can't get to the charging station, that's a problem. So there should be some rules around how this works. Anyways, let's continue on through the presentation. So a number of items here. They talked about the two charging standards, CCS and CHAdeMO. And for those of you that don't know what those are, I have a Tesla vehicle, so they sell this adapter because Tesla has a proprietary interface, which they've always had. But this end here is a CHAdeMO to Tesla adapter, and if you don't know what that looks like, this is the CHAdeMO end. That's what CHAdeMO looks like. Interestingly enough, Tesla themselves don't have a CCS adapter, but here's this company providing an adapter. This is coming out in December, just so this month, and I've actually ordered one of these, and I will make a video about it. This is a CCS adapter. That's what CCS looks like there, and then this is the Tesla side of the adapter. So, those are basically the two standards, and that's what BC Hydro has in all their stations. That's a really good idea. Okay, so let's keep going through this. They've got a mobile app, they've got the RFID card. I've showed those in some of my previous videos. Both of them are pretty cool. I would say it's very easy to use BC Hydro's software, which is pretty cool. And they also, support Flow and ChargePoint if you have those apps. Okay, so they've mentioned installing 2 or more charging stations at all new sites. That's definitely been the case here in Prince George. There's a new charging station here, there's one at Burns Lake, and there's one in Prince Rupert. And all of us up here are waiting for those 3 charging stations to be turned on, but they've just been sitting there for 3 weeks. Nobody's turned them on yet, and that's another problem. I'm not sure that. I know there's all kinds of priorities for electricity because there's all kinds of services that need to be done, but I think we need a dedicated team for electric vehicles in order for everyone in the province to take this serious, because right now it's a very slow process rolling out. Very frustrating from that point of view. Like I said, getting up to Prince George, just recently this year that became very easy to do, but going any direction, it's a challenge now, and it's because it's taking a very long time to roll these out. All right, so they're going to add 25 kilowatt chargers and 100 kilowatt chargers on top of the existing 50 kilowatt chargers, which is pretty cool. So, kind of spread it out, maybe put a few 25s between the 50s and 100s, kind of just to spread it out. So if someone's busy at one charger, you move on to the next one, makes your long distance trip, more viable. And here's a few pictures. I've been to most of these, at least all these top ones. I've been at all of these frequently. I don't think I've been to these bottom ones. Those are some new chargers, so let's keep going. Okay, so they talked about some of the interviews they've done. Interestingly enough, they've done a whole bunch of surveys and phone interviews. Most of the people that have responded were male and 35 years old or older. Most of them own their home. 2/3 are employed. Most of those people earn $50,000 a year or more, and almost 2/3 live in the Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley. No surprise there. Now, one reason probably for that is, once you get to Cache Creek, and as soon as you go north of that, pretty much you've got a resource-based economy in British Columbia. You've got logging towns, you've got mining towns, and oil up there in Fort St. John. Heavily resource-based. Now, that's one thing, but doesn't mean that people aren't getting electric vehicles. However, the charging infrastructure isn't up here. So it's kind of like, what do you expect? Everybody's going to get electric vehicles when there's no place to charge to do a long distance drive. So it's kind of the chicken before the egg problem, in my opinion. So let's keep moving here. So satisfaction has improved. I would say overall a lot of those charging stations are pretty reliable. From all the experience I've had, I know the odd person has complained about some of the connectors being broken and stuff like that. That is true. But the BC Hydro stations, I think those might have been Ministry of Transportation stations that have had a bit more troubles, but the BC Hydro ones have been pretty good. Okay, I'll keep scrolling down here. So, yeah, a couple things to talk about. One of the most controversial subjects that was talked about is the fact that BC Hydro will be going with time-based charging, time-based fees, let's put it that way. So there was a big push, and actually most respondents prefer to be charged by the kilowatt hour, not how much time it takes to charge. And there's so many reasons for that. Some cars charge really slow and they sit there forever and take up the charging station. And, so BC Hydro kind of came along and said, it's easy for us to do this time-based charging. Measurement Canada requires special equipment in order to charge by the kilowatt hour. And I'm just going to quickly jump to that. And I found a bunch of articles here. So here's one. Talks about, measurement system used in EV charging stations must comply with federal measurement laws. Depending on how electricity is sold, Measurement Canada regulates EV charging station meters, but has not yet approved any meters for EV charging stations that sell electricity on the basis of energy. So there's a problem here. There's a disconnect. Here's another article on Plug-in BC, the Ministerial Order M104. It allows persons who are not otherwise public utilities, as well as landlords and strata corporations, to provide electric charging services for compensation. Please note, payment for electricity by the kilowatt hour still requires a device approved by Measurement Canada, but charging stations have not been approved. So you have to charge by time. And that's unfortunate. Most people don't want that. Most people want it by the kilowatt hour, but by what you actually use. And it sounds like probably in 2 to 3 years, BC Hydro will look at something like that. But for now, we're going to be stuck with time-based charging. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like from BC Hydro's point of view. So they did a whole bunch of talking with people. I'm not going to just reread the slides. They gave some examples here of current places in BC that are charging. You can see City of Vancouver's 20 cents per minute. Electrify Canada's, depending on the speed. If it's less than 90 kilowatts, 27. If it's more, it's 57. Fortis BC has prices. Petro-Canada's 27 cents a minute, up to 350 kilowatts. And then there's Tesla. Less than 60 kilowatts is 22 cents. More than 60 kilowatts is 44 cents. So those are some kind of comparisons. And because all these people are forced to charge by the minute. So if we go down here, talking about regulatory items, I've talked about those special Measurement Canada meters that have to be used. So lack of Measurement Canada approved DC metering. That's one of the big problems right now. So everybody's going to have to wait until that gets worked out, what kind of meters and how that's going to be and what it's going to cost to retrofit all these charging stations with something that can do it. Another thing is, how much does it cost BC Hydro to operate these? Right? They talked about that. So here's kind of a grid that shows some ideas of charging. So scenario 1, this first column here talks about how much does it cost BC Hydro just to bring electricity to the charger. The second one is how much does it cost to bring electricity and operate that charging station. And the third third item is plus how much does it cost to install that charging station, that initial capital cost. And so these costs all come down to what percentage of that charger is utilized. So if it's used 3% of a day, out of 24 hours, if it's used 3% of the 24 hours, these are the costs. So it's the most expensive here. As the utilization of that charging station improves, the costs come down. So that was an interesting thing. So the long story short, for now, BC Hydro, starting April of this year, of 2021, is going to start charging somewhere between, they're going to try to recoup for now just the electricity costs. That's how they're going to start off. And so somewhere they talk about those costs. Somewhere between 20 cents to 25 cents. Let me just find, right here. So the target range will be between 20 cents a minute to 25 cents a minute. And that's going to help them recoup the costs just of the electricity. They're talking about should they have different rates for different charging speeds. Like for 25 kilowatt, would it be less? For 100 kilowatts, would it be more? We'll see how that all ends out. But you guys really should fill out the feedback form that I talked about at the beginning, and because you can give them feedback in terms of what you would like to see. Personally, I think one cost for all the charging rates is probably fine, but we'll see. And they talk here, what do you think about the charging rates for different speeds? And you can see here, this is the schedule when they're going to roll this all out. And basically, April of 2021, interim rate schedule is effective. So that's essentially where you're going to start paying money for these charging stations. So it's coming in 2021. So what did I miss here? So one of the areas I wanted to talk about is, you take a look, this is a map of Tesla superchargers. So it's kind of funny that Tesla superchargers follow basically Highway 1, to go across Canada. And that's kind of like pretty much the same thing that BC Hydro did. Now they went down the Coquihalla to Kelowna, I think, but they kind of stayed down here in the southern part. Yeah, most of the province is there. However, you're definitely not going to get adoption in areas you don't have chargers because it's very difficult for people to travel. So, you know, that's important. So coming back to PlugShare, so if I look at this map, you know, you're going to see coming up here to Prince George, there's lots of charging stations, but as soon as you get up here to Prince George, you know, pretty much everything north and west of Prince George is under construction, with the exception of this one 25 kilowatt charger. And I have made a video showing me driving from Prince George all the way to Kitawanga and back, and that's a 24-hour drive. It's terrible. So really hoping that these other chargers will get turned on. But like I said, Prince Rupert, Burns Lake, and Prince George, they all have those two 50 kilowatt fast chargers. They just need to be turned on. I'm just waiting. Anyway, I'll stop harping about that. So what's the summary from this BC Hydro talk? So here's the thing, okay? Here's the deal. Go through the presentation. You know, there's lots of details in there, little nuggets and whatnot about their methodology and how they came to these decisions. Fill out the feedback form. It's going to help them make sort of some final decisions. We only have a short while to give that feedback, so I really suggest that you guys, if you are interested in this, that you fill that out. And yeah, so hopefully this video helped you guys out. I'll put all the links in the description below, and looking forward to seeing a lot more charging infrastructure roll out in 2021. Thanks, guys.